At the average trade show, they talk to 29 people per day. And we know that 70% of information is lost within one 24-hour span. So if you can imagine, by the time you go home, you probably forgot all of 90% of the information you took in. There's nothing on the market right now to help you remember it.
Talk about AI. It's really becoming a necessary tool and resource for all of us in business.
A lot of folks are using AI right now for like, write an email for me or do this like really mundane, easy task. But people don't realize the workflows that you can put together with AI. It's like having 3 extra employees on the team. It's that powerful. It's crazy.
Strong companies, lasting partnerships, powerful events. Welcome to the Experience Builders Podcast.
Chris, you've been traveling around all over the world, and you've been meeting some interesting people along the way. Tell us how you got introduced to Hunter and Jordan.
No, this was great. So somewhere in the last 6 weeks of travels, I was up, as you know, Khalil, we do one day a year. Our industry converges on Capitol Hill, and we meet with our elected officials to talk about the trade show and business events industry and what its contribution is to the U.S. economy. This year, I was had the privilege of being the captain for the Florida delegation. We had 7 or 8 in our group, and Jordan and Hunter, the men you're about to meet, were in that group. Couple young, hard-charging entrepreneurs that are, already in third gear and their newest business venture, and it was great. They were from North Florida. I'm, as you know, home based in the central part of the state, but it was great. So we had 4 or 5 meetings with both of our state senators and some local Congress people, and we became fast friends. Really just love the energy and the intelligence of these 2 guys. I'd like to say they remind me of me, but I mentioned intelligence. So they have it and in great abundance that it took me a little longer to get, but super grateful they've made the time here. We got a great topic to talk about AI, and that's the space that they live in, and it's really becoming a necessary tool and resource for all of us in business. So, Jordan Walker and Hunter McKinley, great to have you guys join us today.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, I want to hear from you guys. I know we're going to talk about AI for the majority of this podcast, but I want to hear how you got in the event space to start with. What intrigued you about events specifically?
Yeah, it's kind of a wild story, I guess. And before we get into it, Chris mentioned how we met, and for everybody listening, believe it or not, Chris actually has a couple funny jokes up his sleeve, and we might hear 1 or 2 of them today if we're lucky. So I just want to start.
I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge of that, Senator. None. So
no. So the story of how we got into the events industry is actually fascinating. So, skipping a little backstory here, Hunter and I have had this meeting recording tool called Backtrack, just slowly kind of sitting in the background for a while. We built it kind of as a side project, but it's a whole other story. And it was just kind of sitting there purring along in the background. And then one day we got to talking to one of the users, and she goes, "Guys, I used Backtrack at a trade show, and it completely changed my business." I went, "Well, what do you mean? Tell us more. Like, how did that happen?" She goes, "Instead of trying to remember what everybody was saying to me or take down really quick notes or let things slip through the cracks, I just backtracked all my conversations. And as she goes, as you guys know, it summarized the conversation for me, give me all the notes, et cetera, et cetera." He's like, "It was awesome. So I was just focused on talking to people all day while the app was taking the notes for me, and it just let me be myself." And she's like, "It was like having a whole other employee for us kind of in the background." And Hunter and I heard this and went, "Wow, that is really, really interesting. Let's pull on this thread a little more." And next thing you know, believe it or not, there's quite the demand for a tool like this in the events industry, especially amongst exhibitors. Exhibitors spend so much time just trying to keep up with all the conversations they have at their booth. Things fall through the cracks, and so Backtrack's there to kind of help mediate that for them.
Excellent. So kind of like someone else gave you hey, you need to be doing this in event space, and then you guys joined in, like, let's go all in on it. So let's hear a little bit more about what Backtrack is. Can you explain that for our listeners who understand that AI is out there? It's one of the hottest topics, but how is it actually performing for people in the event space?
Sure.
Yeah, Hunter, do you want to take this
Yeah.
one? Maybe share a little bit about too the legendary airplane ride where it came together.
Yeah. So like Jordan said, backtrack, the reason why we call it backtrack is because oftentimes in a meeting, you'll say, hang on, backtrack for a second, right? Like basically like, let's rewind this conversation back to the point where we lost each other and let's get back on track. So we were actually in a meeting trying to raise money for our now parent company, Yak, and we were getting destroyed. We did not have any answers prepared. We've never raised venture capital before. And we didn't know what those answers were. And after that meeting, Jordan says to me, man, I really wish we recorded that. So get this, guys, on the way back from San Francisco with no money at this time, they did not like us. At least they didn't like the product at the time. We built the original version of Backtrack on that flight back. So we got on the flight with nothing, and we came back with not only an idea, but a prototype, a landing page, a logo. If you go to my Instagram, actually, I think I have my Instagram on private now, but on my Instagram, I have the entire process documented from even the idea of just like, what's the logo look like? I actually drew, I didn't have my laptop on me at the time. I even drew the original Backtrack logo with Instagram stories feature. So this whole thing started by solving our own problems. So of course, when we saw the events industry, we saw, wow, this is such a big problem. It's so expensive to get involved with AI or just to get involved with lead capture. And no one was doing anything with AI at the time. And this is only 6 months ago. And we've just gone full throttle. But our product in particular, what it does is it records sort of in the background. We call it an audio history. And it records locally on your device, whether that's a computer or a phone. And every 5 minutes, it loops on top of itself. So if you've ever played video games, if you ever played Pokemon back in the day or any sort of video game, it'll overwrite itself.
Okay, was that a headshot? Was that a headshot?
That wasn't a headshot.
Do you ever play Atari Pong back in the day? Is that where you're from?
Chris was just on caveman figurines on his bedroom wall.
Right.
I know there's a mute button here somewhere, Khalil. Where is that?
Right.
We can. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. No, this is fascinating. Does that story?
It's like
Hunter. I was gonna say, did that story you just told me? Did that become part of your deck slide, your pitch? Because it's fascinating. The legendary flight. The getting your ass kicked in Silicon Valley, and then how you created the product off of in the sunburn of that meeting. That to me would be a really compelling story for the next round of investors you guys pitched.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. I mean, we're solving our own problem, right? And that always does well because you all know at the average trade show now, they talk to 29 people per day. And we know that 70% of information is lost within one 24-hour span. So if you can imagine, by the time you go home, you probably forgot all of 90% of the information you took in. There's nothing on the market right now to help you remember it.
I want our listeners to understand the uniqueness of Backtrack. So the one thing that has made its way, guys, into our space is everybody's got an AI note taker on a Zoom call, right? So, I mean, we do. And so how does your product go beyond that? How does it differentiate from, what seems like a slew of note takers out there?
Here, I could talk about it real quick. So what's so interesting about Backtrack is that note takers that we have on Zoom meetings today, they record forwards, right? So you hit record and you hope that you're going to have a great conversation. You hope that's going to be something you're going to want to reference back later. What makes Backtrack so unique is that we record backwards, sort of like a car dash cam, how that works, giving you the option to choose what you want to save after the conversation happens. Because what Hunter and I say all the time, what we hear exhibitors say all the time is, you have somebody come up to your booth, maybe they're a tire kicker, right? Maybe they're there just for the free swag or just to mooch off your booth or the free water, whatever it might be, right? They may not be a qualified lead. So you don't necessarily want to save that conversation, But when a Fortune 500 company rolls up on you and says, hey, I want to do business with you, that's a conversation that you definitely want to save. So the magic of Backtrack is that we record backwards. And on top of that, after the recording and the summary and the notes are generated, we will automatically put it over in their CRM. So that way they don't have to do any of that manual data entry after the show either. Because what we hear a lot too is folks go, yeah, with my legacy tool, I took the notes or I got this or got whatever. Then after the day ended, I had to take 100 different conversations and manually input that into the CRM. And I can tell you guys, from what we've heard, nobody wants to put that information into the CRM. It's either poorly put into the CRM or it just doesn't make it into the CRM at all. And so we decided not only are we going to help with the summary and the note creation, but we're also going to make sure it gets to the place that they need it to go in order to do business and follow up and get ROI from the show itself. And that's what makes Backtrack so unique amongst anything else out there.
This is where you're going to appreciate my tenure, Jordan. You are absolutely for decades. That has been the thing that has choked us, is the weakness of inputting that data, whatever the original. Again, it was hand puppets and dioramas when I was doing it back in the day, right? But no, nobody wanted to enter that data. That was the weak point. So you'd come back with ultimately business cards, and nobody was following. Not nobody, but very, very few were following through on a contact manager, getting the rest of that data.
You know what else is interesting about that, Chris? What we've heard from so many exhibitors is that, in a lot of these cases where they're using exhibitors using legacy tooling, yeah, sure, they'll get an email, they'll get a first name, a last name, a phone number, whatever. But all of that is almost meaningless without the context of the conversation, right? I could have whoever's email, but if I don't remember what we talked about or what we agreed upon or the next steps, it's almost useless. And then you times that times the 300 conversations that you have in a 3-day span where you're at a show. I mean, forget about it, right? It's really, really hard to convert that stuff without the context. So
a business card is not a lead; it's a contact. Those 7 fields of information, it's contact information. Without what you're saying, the data, the capture, and the transfer of that really critical conversation. Can I ask? I want to go back for a second. So you said we record backwards. Is that where the layering on top of comes in? Where, so really, your final product, you still have to record forward to be able to then look at it backwards, right? Is it just that, there's no way you can start recording at the end first, right? But you can reorganize the data. So the most important stuff, you then kind of present it in the Backtrack finish offering is going back and leading with the Fortune 500 critical conversation rather than having to listen all the way through to get to the good stuff at the end. Am I right in assuming that's how it is?
Yeah, in a sense. So like what Hunter mentioned earlier, he did a good job of explaining it, but we will record and overwrite the information in the background. So we're kind of purring along in the background, kind of listening and overwriting. So whatever you're not saving, it's just automatically getting deleted in the 5-minute window, right? And then after that 5 minutes is up, if you go, oh, okay, that one with Chris, I want to save it, you just hit the go button in our app, and then we'll go back and actually then save it. But otherwise, it's held in what we call temporary storage, and then it gets deleted if you don't manually hit that go button.
And you were talking about these 5-minute loops, Hunter was. What happens if the conversation's longer than 5 minutes? It's a 20-minute conversation. Do those 5-minute loops get synced together? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, right this second, the way that it works is you can actually go back up to 20 minutes. So it's the scale. If you go into the settings, you can set it to be 1 minute or 20 minutes. And we know that a lot of hosted buyer programs, they have these meetings. Shop Talk is one of the big ones. They have over 50,000 meetings over the course of 2 days. And they say, hey, look, we have a half-hour meeting. What are we going to do? And we typically say, look, we can go up to 20 minutes. Maybe we can make it longer in the future. But the last 20 minutes typically are the most important, especially the last minute or two, because that's what the next steps are. So as long as you're getting a good chunk of the conversation, that's better than what's happening now, which is nothing.
Yeah. And so is this in like a format where I'm just holding my phone next to me? Should I be wearing a mic? What does that look like in the physical space?
Yeah, we've seen folks do all sorts of things. So generally what exhibitors do is if they're wearing like a jacket, they'll just put I have my phone here. They just put their phone in their jacket right here, or they put it on their table stand in front of them. We've also had users who would get, the little lanyard things that they put their phone in the sleeve and they walk around with that. Some people just hold them in their hands, so it's really up to personal preference. But generally, as long as it's within a few feet of you, you're good to go.
Okay, and how does it do with background noise? Like I'm imagining I'm at my booth, someone else is talking to the person next to them. Is it pretty good at just initiating with the people that are right in front of the phone?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And we have
sure.
not only does Apple have an amazing AI built into the phones already, which you're going to see a major upgrade in September, or maybe even sooner, but we have our own AI layer on top of it to help separate out the noise. Because as you guys know, when you go into one of those halls, it is full blown, you know, concert like Ozzy Osbourne out there. It is so loud. So Jordan and I, to test it out, we would go to a grocery store that has basically no Wi-Fi and or no cell phone reception at all, and it's super loud. So we were testing it in environments just like it. So that also proves the point that it works offline as well. We know that Wi-Fi is not great on those showroom floors.
Yeah, Khalil,
Yeah.
we've done a lot of testing, what like Hunter's saying, whether it was the grocery store and us walking around looking like morons with the grocery store testing our app, or some folks from our team even went to concerts, right? To really put this thing through the ringer to see, yeah, is it going to be able to withstand the noise within the trade show floor? But fortunately, it's all good. Okay.
Excellent.
This is fascinating. I remember again 20, 25 years ago some very really archaic efforts to try and record the conversation. I'm picturing there was if there's any Skyline dealers listening and they've been at it a while, they're going to remember a product called Voice Track, which had these mini cassette shuttles under this device. You could take notes, but you hit a record button. It was almost like a Walkman size device. And but the thing I noticed was people were you had to announce, do you mind if I record our conversation while we're talking? Do you guys is there any announcement, or are you calling out that there's going to be a recording to a visitor, or is that not even necessary anymore?
Yeah, what we've seen it's a couple part answer. So one is it largely just depends on the show that you go to. So most shows actually encourage you to record as an exhibitor, encourage you to record. So you get some ROI out of the show. For example, when we went to South by Southwest, it was actually in their exhibitor documents that say, "Hey, look, record at your booth. Remember these conversations. Just have your microphone pointed in towards you." So there's kind of a level at the show level where it's agreed upon and encouraged to record. And then likewise, when you buy a ticket to a show, you agree, everybody checks that little box that says you consent to having microphones, cameras, videos, whatever in your face, right? So there's a reasonable expectation that you are going to be recorded while you're at these shows.
Great
Now,
point.
Chris, what I think maybe you're asking is it right, just because somebody agrees to the box, is it right to tell them or not tell them that you should report? And what we say is, look, you as the exhibitor should tell folks that, hey, you are recording, whether it's you say it out loud, you have something on your booth, whatever it might be. But we encourage folks to say, hey, look, when you walk up to our booth, there was something here that it's gonna help me remember the conversation, actually for both of our sakes, in the future going forward. So it's kind of a two-part answer. But I think that maybe that answers the question. Hunter, I don't know if you want to add
I
anything to that, but
no, by the way, I just don't think I don't know that the stigma is that like it was a major privacy discussion back in the day. And I think we're all recording each other on the planet in so many ways. It just doesn't seem to be the same uh, stigma or
If you asked us a year or two ago,
yeah.
we were I mean, this product has been around for 4 years. And if you asked us maybe a year or two ago, I would have absolutely said that this is much more of an issue. But like you said, everybody has meeting recorders on now. I mean, it's hard to hop onto a call now without someone having some sort of note-taking app that's just running in the background anyway. So I think as an especially American society, we become so used to it now
Yeah.
that we don't hear it as much as we used to, for sure.
What was it that got your stakeholders so turned on about this product? Was it after you focused to the trade show application they got excited, or were they seeing that when this was more of a generalist product, you said it was kind of just laying around, but what was it that where they go, holy cow, I really see the potential for this? What was it that turned them on?
Look, no one really, I know that we're all in the event space now, but we have to remember, and this is why we went to Action Day, right? Is that most people in our world around us, when we go down to the grocery store, they have no idea about the event space. And frankly, just 6 months ago, we really didn't know anything at all in the event space. So we have to kind of do our job as to explain why it's such a big opportunity for so many people, whether it's the government in 2020 not knowing that the event space was so big and how it impacts economies, all the way down to actual employees within industry. We're in the tech industry, and they only really know about CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show, of course, in Las Vegas every year. So there's not really a lot of visibility for many parts of this industry. So once we start to explain, well, hey, look, it's over $100 billion industry, and it impacts economies into the tune of billions of dollars. And oh, by the way, the incumbents are basically either lead capture apps that really don't work most of the time the way that you would expect them to. Like, just getting an email address isn't exactly getting a lead, especially at the end of the day when you have 80 leads, but you don't remember the conversations. But then our other competitor is basically just people writing down on the back of business cards. So the industry is so ripe for technology, but you have to keep in mind, these people have been like you guys have been in the industry for a long time. Like the world is going forward without technology in certain areas, like writing on the back of a business card. The guys that do that, they're getting millions of dollars done, whether we talk to them or not. Like, they're getting the job done. So it's kind of a tall ask to say, hey, look, there's this big industry. They only have maybe one event per year, like the plastic show with Jeremy, right? It's every 3 years. They're going to go in and they're not going to want to take these major risks. But if they do, here's all the potential opportunity for everybody involved. That's what got them so excited. It's a zero. It's not even a 0 to 1. It's a zero. We can go from 0, which is no technology, to 60 in a fraction of a second. It's actually just a people management change, not necessarily a technology thing that really has to catch up. So it's a very interesting opportunity that has a lot of different players in the game and stakeholders. But my gosh, if someone's going to do it eventually. We just figure, why not us?
Yeah. Why not us?
It's great.
Talk about
So before this, we were talking. Yeah. Before this, we were talking. Chris was talking about his wealth of knowledge in artificial intelligence, and was hoping for the day that we'll be able to have sales proposals generated for us.
Wow, you too, Khalil? I mean, I just usually, one guy's on my team. All right, that's all right. Bring it.
No, but basically, I think, this is a really big advancement for the event space in having a tool like Backtrack. But there's other opportunities out there to use AI. The kind of a two-part question here to kind of guide the rest of our conversation. What are the other things you envision Backtrack doing with all the context that you're gathering from these conversations? I have some ideas, but I want to hear from you. Where do you see this going? And then what are some of the other areas that the event space might be lacking in terms of using AI day to day in their business?
Jordan, I'll take the first part. You take the second.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Go for it.
All right. So what you guys might not, so here's the biggest issue in the event industry with AI. Everybody knows that they should use it. They just don't necessarily know how or what tools to use. And that's where we come in. We have a whole course that we're building on that. So we started this, you started your question off with, can we, generate, we were waiting for the day where you can generate proposals, let's say with AI. AI is just another word for, obviously, artificial intelligence, but AI has been around for, if you've ever used Google, Facebook, these are all built on AI, machine learning. It's not all the same thing, but it's essentially when people use them interchangeably. Today is the day for the last 5 years, you've been able to create proposals. The difference now is that within the last, I'd say, 6 to 12 months, is you can have it fully generate the proposal from start to finish. And not only that, you can also have it sent out to the prospect for you. And when they say something like, hey, I don't really like, hey, Chris, I don't really like this design, can make a new one. You can have it make new ones for you. So so what's crazy to finish this point, the technology is all there. It's just it's someone like us coming in and saying, hey, by the way, use a tool like Zapier to help you do this. And then you can go off to the races. You can hire an intern to this. I've seen this done. They'll hire an intern at a high school. I know this one company, I won't name who it is. They hired an intern at a high school, and this kid has completely automated like 6 of the jobs that they're doing right now. And I actually talk to him all the time because now he knows more about it than I do. We've been just pinging back and forth. So like, for example, with a proposal, you can give it your entire pricing sheet. You can give it all of the costs to your business, what services you offer, and you don't even have to be very smart about it. You can just give it to it. Let's say a ChatGPT like platform, and just say, here's the company that I'm talking to. Here's their website, generate a proposal. Here's what they want. In a few seconds, it's just going to generate a proposal for you. But then you get into the automation side, and Chris, this is where we left off in DC. It's one thing to generate the proposal. It's another thing to just have it completely send it off and handle all the requests and responses and go back and forth for you. Again, it's all possible as of today, which is, I feel like we're living in sci-fi.
You know what, Hunter, you had a great point a second ago. One question I was going to ask is the evolution of this going to require employers like me to hire for lack of a better phrase, a chief AI officer or somebody who sort of owns our thinking, or is it not a dedicated employee? This is really behavior change for everybody in the company that just has to embrace using the tools and the resources that exist. In other words, don't rely on one person, but everybody's got to come around to understanding this.
As of today, I think that the tools are very scattered. So you need somebody like let's call it an intern, but maybe an AI expert for today.
Yeah.
But if you fast forward now, what do you guys use to generate your proposals? I'm assuming like Microsoft Office.
It'll be that, or
right?
it's tricked out Excel templates, but I think that in the exhibit house space, the challenge, Hunter, is every single solution is different. So even though it's a 20 by 20 island space and there's a tower and there's 3 demo kiosk stations and there's a conversation area, this one has 17 graphic images and this one has 4. The images are all different. Maybe they're going to be produced differently. So that's changing cost. These are fabric. Those are inkjet. These are backlit. So when you look at all those variables, and so first of all, it's heartwarming when you go, no, the technology does exist. Because I have seen designers on a stage say, design this, and in 21 seconds, there's a pretty kick-ass looking, island exhibit built for a brand that has all the functional requirements. We didn't get into the discussion in those moments. Is it actually pricing it out? But I told you, I just saw this great presentation at a conference last week. And my takeaway was, he goes, look, your database is filled with information, and that's how you choose to put a proposal together. What you're betting on with AI is you may not have the information in your database, but it does. So why not put it to work? Which, again, the lizards in my brain are running around right now going, is not some of that proprietary? Is it accessing somebody else's proprietary? Is there a way to protect that if somebody doesn't want their, cool quoting system? How does all that work? Or is it all just the wild, wild west right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'll let Jordan finish the second half of the question, but what your direct question is more about, it's data privacy and what's the next evolution. Look, today it is very manual. We probably have to sit for an hour and put it all together, and it'll be a very nice little box that we can hand to any one of your employees and they can start putting together proposals. It won't be perfect, but it'll get close enough where it does 90% of the work in that last 10%. But look, especially if you're using any sort of Microsoft, Google, Apple products, I don't know if you know this, but OpenAI, one of the biggest companies in the world now, which is leading the conversation. That's why we're even talking about AI, really, is because of OpenAI's ChatGPT. They're major stakeholders, Microsoft. So if you're using Microsoft Teams, you're using Microsoft Office Suite, it's just going to be built in. It's going to say, hey, Chris, you're building a proposal here. I'm sure, actually, I think they even started rolling this out publicly. Hey, you're building a proposal, and based on your other proposals, here's what I think. And it's going to have a chatbot built right into it where you can say, actually, this one, I think we're going to do inkjet, and it'll be able to be smart enough to remember that for the next time. That's today. If you wait a year from now, or maybe even 2, you can use a product like Backtrack, and there's a million other tools out there that can record online meetings. You can have the meeting, and it can be smart enough to just generate the proposal for you. Again, the technology is already there. We're just waiting for those big conglomerates to just put the tech together and just be able to whip it up in seconds. You can have the proposal ready for the client by the end of the call, not waiting for, a bunch of other research and stuff that you have to do now. It's all coming. It just has to be put together.
Yeah, Hunter, is that basically what you guys have on your roadmap of what you're going to be adding to Backtrack, or no? What is kind of the next thing up to bat for Backtrack?
So this is the first time we'll announce it. Jordan, I don't mean to keep going, man, but
You're on
I'm
fire.
Sorry.
Fire. So
I'm excited.
Someone's well caffeinated.
This is the first time yeah, dude, no, I had my chocolate milk this morning, so I'm up. This will be the first time we're announcing publicly, other than my tweet or my LinkedIn post last night, where you can actually go from having a conversation with somebody to all you have to do is snap a photo of just their LinkedIn QR code. Be something as simple as that, or even their business card. It'll take all that information and whatever you're missing, like a phone number, a LinkedIn, their name, whatever you're missing out of that information, we're just going to fill it in all for you, send it all to your CRM, and it can have automatic emails and we have templates that we can provide. But it'll send out emails, and it can even book the meeting by the time you get out of the show. You have a full CRM and meetings booked, and you didn't even have to type in a single character. That's the vision. You should be able to have a conversation, just have one button, and all this other stuff just magically happens in the background, and not a single thing ever has to be done again by the salesperson. That's it. That's the vision. And but they're already
the post I saw. That's the one that I saw yesterday that you had about the QR code. Like, it was fascinating. Khalil, I don't want to jump ahead. Don't let me jump ahead. But I know that our listeners are gonna want to know, how does this work? If I have a client I want to introduce this product to, is it a subscription product? Is it by show? How do I engage with this? And again, if we've got a spot where we're going to be doing this as we're wrapping up, Khalil, but this, to me, it's it's not very
cover
headline
it now and mention it again at the end. Yeah. So how do people find Backtrack? How do they get started?
Hunter, go for it.
All right. The easiest thing you can do, especially if you're going to be coming from here, is go to usebacktrack.com, backtrack.com. I tried buying backtrack.com. They wanted $7 million for it, so we turned that down for now. So go to usebacktrack.com. You can go there. It'll give you a quick demo and everything. But at the bottom, if you scroll down, you'll see if you have a Mac, an iPhone, or an Android. We work with all of them. You can download it for free today at no cost. And eventually we'll put in some sort of a paywall where you have to pay we're thinking about $250 per event. That's what we have it at right now. We see everybody else charges like $400, $800 per person. And we're going to give you 1,000 times the value for basically half the cost. So if you want more free credits, just email me at hunter@usebacktrack.com or Jordan at usebacktrack.com.
And that's not going to be is that by number of recordings, or it's just a flat fee of $250 per event is what you're thinking? So whether it's a 30 by 40,
the way that we have
I've got 4 people generating leads, or it's 1 person in a 10 by 10, that rate would be the same?
Yeah, it goes by credit. So if you go to the website, you'll see it's a little bit more information. But basically, think of it like 1 recording equals 1 credit. You'll get 250 credits per day, or per event, I should say. And so it really depends, but it's by person, not necessarily by booth.
Very cool.
Outstanding.
Well, I want to go back really fast and just kind of hear some general AI tips. Jordan, can you share anything for our listeners in the event space of other ways? Obviously, Use Backtrack is going to be a great opportunity for them, but what are some of the other ways that they can be looking to use AI in their business?
Yeah, there's a couple. And, it's cool. Hunter and I have been, messing with AI for a long time now. I remember back in the day, it was when I think it was called IFTT was really popular, and we got our start building Alexa skills and trying to automate things in our household. I remember I used to, and it would drive my parents nuts, the lights going on and off with AI, like what is happening? So anyway, we've been messing with AI for a while, and now I feel like we're finally at a point where we can really comment on it well. And I actually just made a post about it too today. One of the tools, or 2 of the tools that I think everybody in the event industry should be using, one is called clay.com, and the other is called Zapier. And so I'll actually talk about Zapier first, and then I'll jump into Clay. So Zapier is an AI sort of workflow automation tool. So imagine you have two products or services that you use that can't integrate to one another, but Zapier, you use Zapier. Zapier is the bridge that will connect these tools together. So for example, after we have it, as an example with us, after somebody fills out one of our forms, they automatically get sent over to our Slack channel and they automatically get sent off an email. That workflow is powered by a tool called by the Zapier tool. And what's really great about Zapier as well, where their AI piece really comes into play, is Zapier before would take a little knowledge to know, like, okay, I need to hook this piece up to this piece to this piece in order to make it happen. Now with their new AI platform, you just say, after somebody fills out my form, I want them to send emails, or after somebody signs up for my service, I want them to do X. You just tell it to Zapier's AI and it'll go build all that in the background for you and then just spit it out and you're off to the races, which is really, really cool and powerful. So, whether it's outreach for people to come to your event, to find leads as an exhibitor, whatever it might be, Zapier can kind of put all those pieces together. Now, the second tool to talk about here, which is just absolutely electric, is called Clay.com. They actually, just the other day, I think it was last Thursday, they just got valued at $500 million. So they're a really serious AI tool and probably the best AI tool in the game right now. And so what Clay does is that it's a data enrichment and automation platform. So what that means is you give it a little bit of information and it will give you a lot of information given that context. And, Chris, it's actually funny, at the ECF event that Hunter and I went to, we ran a whole playbook using Clay.com and Zapier to kind of meet some of the people that we hadn't met before. Sam ended up doing a whole post about it. Some journalists are doing a whole articles on it. It's crazy. But Clay is a great tool for giving it a list of companies, and then it'll spit out the employees at those companies, their titles, their emails, their numbers, their business addresses, their social profiles, everything that you need. So to give you all that information, and then it will help you with the workflow and automation as well. And then you can also do some really other awesome stuff now, for event organizers, where you can export that list, put it into a Facebook ad, run ads against your audience. The list goes on and on and on. And that's part of what we talk about in the course that we're putting together. But these two AI tools are maybe use cases that aren't super common right now, but use cases organizers and exhibitors alike should definitely be thinking about.
This is great
Really
stuff,
good
guys.
stuff.
By the way, with this course you're talking about, is this an online course that you're going to be offering, or an in-person? Okay.
Yes, it'll be an online course.
Talk offline. I've got some between EDPA and the educational track that's going there, and some other friends I have. How do you like me? I got friends that can help with this course. No, this would be a great, really interested in. I see broad appeal for that for sure, guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it'll just be an online course that folks can sign up for, and we'll teach them how to use Zapier, how to use Clay, how to just be thinking about all these AI tools. Because again, I think Khalil, you mentioned it at the top of this, is a lot of folks are using AI right now for, like, write an email for me, or do this like really mundane, easy task. But people don't realize today, like,
Job
already
description.
the workflows that you can put together with AI. I mean, Hunter and I say it all the time. It's like having 3 extra employees on the team. It's that powerful. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, this has really been great. Thank you so much for sharing about Backtrack. For our listeners, you can go to usebacktrack.com. It'll be in the show notes, and they can sign up for a free trial, I'm assuming, to start, and then even purchase credits from there.
Yep. Just go to the website.
Exactly. Excellent. And we'll also put links into clay.com that you mentioned for some of that data enrichment and doing some outreach, as well as Zapier, which hopefully people are familiar with because it's been around for a while, but it's at another level now with AI. So we'll put Zapier.com in there as well. I think really the big thing that I've taken away from this is that, for so long, software and using a CRM is really valuable, but you're dealing with a lot of behavior change because you've got to go in and you've got to be religious about using it and updating it so that it's actually useful. And you guys are eliminating a lot of the heavy lifting there, where there's not so much behavior change, where it's just have the phone right in front of you to record the conversation and then look at what it does for you. So I love what you guys are doing with Backtrack. Love that you're now in the event space, and excited to see where this journey takes you. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Experience Builders Podcast. Check out our website in the show notes or visit crewxp.com to learn more.